So, how's everybody this evening? It's good to see you all here. I want to start by thanking the members of the committee for the honor of being inducted into the Hall of Fame. I've got, I wrote some stuff down, and I just want to make sure everybody saw me carrying this around. It's actually not that much. It's actually, normal printing equates to 2 pages, but I did old man texts, so we got, it's actually like 8 pages. But I'm sure a lot of you understand about that. So, I actually, when I was nominated, I spoke with Coach Vasello, and he told me that I would have a limit with regards to how much time I would speak. So, I understand that, but for me, it's not going to be an easy task. I could stand up here and talk for a really long time, and I could do it without even taking a breath. And most of you know me, you're already aware of that. So, understanding that according to Bill, I only have 45 minutes. I'm not started. Coach, I'm just kidding. Just kidding. When I received the letter notifying me that I was being honored here, there was a form to fill out with my athletic accomplishments. Now, to be honest with you, it's been almost 42 years. And as I get older, I can't keep track of my car keys or my glasses. In fact, I gotta find my glasses to find my glasses most of the time. And so, I was gonna need a lot of help with that. So I pulled out the old scrapbook that I hear everybody else talking about, and I started reading some of the articles pertaining to my old running days. And the first thing I noticed about it was how brown and fragile the paper was. The years had aged the paper in a way that I can only describe as actually kind of startling. It had been 42 years, which, by the way, made me 60. Well, much like the pages, I've gotten older and maybe a little bit more fragile, but the articles, the contents, are as much part of me then as they are now. Not all of it, but the lessons, the passion, an unbelievable good fortune that I was blessed to be part of one of the prettiest little towns that I've ever seen, and some of the most decent, hardworking, and dedicated people that I've ever known, and part of what I can only describe as a legacy running program in the state of Pennsylvania for over 40 years. Crazy, cocky, colorful, just a little different, and maybe my favorite one of all, an extrovert in the same sense that the Grand Canyon is a small gully. So it's in print. These are the most noticeable and repeated descriptions attributed to me in the articles. What can I say? I like to think that life humbles us, and with age comes wisdom and maturity. And I think that I've grown up a little bit, and at least I thought so until my good friend and brother Bernie called me and said that he was talking to Coach Smith, and that he was very, very excited that I was being inducted into the Hall of Fame. But he asked that Bernie and I tone it down a little bit and behave ourselves. And I'm thinking, oh, was that directed at me or Bernie or all of us? Because there's a bunch of us that are pretty good buddies. So I guess maybe some things don't change. But nonetheless, I believe that there were a lot of people that helped me whenever I was a young man. And to help somebody that had the personality and some of the craziness that I was involved in when I was a young man, I think it took some special people, and I'd like to take this time to thank someone if I might. First of all, it was the families that I interacted with. The Talladay's, his brother and I were very good friends, and I spent quite a bit of time at their house when I was a young man. The Tangerins, the Witts, the Murdochs, the Astorinos. I learned so much from watching their families. The interaction, the love, the respect. It was something that was not that familiar to me, and the impact remains to this day. Danny Mitchell was a good friend. His mother and father, they always welcomed me into their house. They fed me, they treated me with respect, and they always made me feel welcome. Danny's father, a great example for me. He was a hardworking guy. He was funny, and you could see that the love for Danny just oozed out of this guy. And it was definitely a blessing for me to be part of that experience. The Sisk family, the sibling relationships that I witnessed there, the gentle, beautiful, loving Jeannie, it was fantastic, and I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you. The McMinn family, they accepted me, they fed me, they loved me, and Donna, to this day, still represents one of the most loving, giving, kind, generous people that I've ever met in my life. And her father, Jim Morgan, still stands as a person that impressed me in a manner that's difficult to describe, and it's hard to express gratitude for it. But Donna, please accept the thank you. I really do appreciate what you did for me. Thank you very much. And I was living pretty much by myself. It was right about my sophomore year in a little house outside of town. Didn't have plumbing, and I was good. I was happy. I was free. But one of my friends, who was my sister's old boyfriend, he came and talked to me and insisted that I come and move in with him and his family. And for a couple of years, I lived with them. They fed me. They took care of me. They loved me. And they accepted me as one of their family. They were modest folks with modest means. His name is Rick Guppo. And his parents and his sisters, they took me in and treated me like family. Pam, his sister, stuck up for me with a zeal that I'd never seen before. Rick and I slept in this bedroom, which was really small, and there was just barely enough room to walk down through that bedroom with the 2 mattresses that were in there. His father was a gentle, big guy. I don't think he was as big as some of these guys that are here tonight, though. My goodness. He had a gentle spirit, and he was always tinkering out in the garage and working on something. Every morning, without fail, he would yell up the stairs to wake me up, and I would respond with a mumble, okay, I'm up. And every single day, Rick, you remember this, he would yell up the stairs, and he would say, you cut your what off? And then I would laugh, and the day would always start on a positive note with him. His mom, she was an affectionate, empathetic woman. She knew my struggles, and she would hug me, tell me she loved me. And when I would get to school, she was a cafeteria worker, and she always had a sandwich for me in the morning. And it was just fantastic. And it was their charity, their selflessness, and their love to this day is part of the reason that I always help others when I can, and sometimes even when I can't. Their example taught me that tired has nothing to do with being your brother's keeper. So Rick, please, I want to thank you very much from the bottom of my heart for what you and your family did for me. Thank you very much. So, now, if you played football and ran cross country, some of these things you'll get right away. September and October for me was just such a great time. You know, to this day, I close my eyes and I can feel the cold wind and hear the leaves rustling in the wind, the rhythmic harmony of the trees rocking and the wind blowing, the fall sun dimming just a little bit as it changed position in the sky. The mornings were crisp and the evenings were chilly. And as the last bell rang, down the hall, through the gym to the locker room, up to the field, where we always knew there was a lot of pain in the way of this for Coach Smith's workouts. But we were more so, we were just looking forward to the sheer joy of being part of it, the fun, and being part of something. And while we stretched, the seriousness of what was about to happen to us would take effect and start to concentrate, and we still in the background. You could always hear the pads clacking down the practice field down below, and the coaches yelling out and the whistles blowing. And maybe you could hear the band, practicing behind the school. You remember the practice behind the school and echoing off the hills and the trees. It was just fantastic. And every fall, all those things, the smells, the changing of the light, the sun, it creates a smile on my face, and all those memories come flooding back in. And I really, really appreciate it, and still to this day is something that I really embrace. I intentionally omitted one person. It definitely was a key person, and the most significant influence in my life, and that was Coach John Smith. Certainly, my individual compliments, they're notable. The efforts, the training, the races, but as I reflect back on those races and the invitationals, those individual accomplishments became secondary to the accomplishments and the camaraderie of the team. In a sport that is truly an individual sport where subjectivity plays no role, it's just you against the clock and yourself. It is amazing to me that after all these years, the thing that stands out is the team. The practices were torturous, and the manner with which Coach Smith made them possible, his ability to bring levity and laughter, it was awesome. Everybody had a nickname whenever we were growing up. Everybody. And I was talking to one of my good friends that's here this evening. He ran for Coach Smith. After I left, and we were talking about some of the practices, and he imparted upon me what I can only describe as a Smithyism. There was a kid on the team. He wasn't the best runner. He wasn't the worst runner. He was in the pack somewhere, and. Of course, they were having it was a normally brutal practice because he used to hammer us pretty good, and which just made us all really good runners. He said, "Hey guys, the kid's name was Buffalo." He said, "Buffalo, good news. I got good news and bad news." He said, "Yeah, Coach, what?" He said, "Well, good news is that last lap, you have the second fastest time of the day." And he said, "Coach, thanks, that's great." And he said, "Yeah, the bad news is everybody else was tied for first. Get on the line and let's go." That's just the way that he did it. I mean, he was a mad genius. And it was the secret to his success. And the beauty of what Smitty did is that you knew that he cared about you. You knew that he wanted you to win. And he knew the importance of humor and self-deprecation. Most of us would have run our legs off for him. for the team and for what and the team is what seems to stand out. So much in my memories and what I garnered with so much pride. Coach Smith taught us to be winners. He taught us how to appreciate the journey, how to embrace each practice and trust the process, to laugh and to care for one another, and to never let us get ahead of ourselves, and most importantly, to allow us to be ourselves. And when you're dealing with runners, there's definitely some individuals that run. I mean, I don't know how many of you know, but the longer I've lived, the more I understand good runners, we're kind of strange folks. It's part of what it is. You know, I was fast, but I was just one of many. I brought notoriety to the program, and I like to think that I may have been the first one. I think I may have been a catalyst. Yes? A catalyst to set the bar for what was and became unquestionably the most feared, revered program in the state of Pennsylvania. Our state championship in cross country in 1977, I think, was a pivotal event that catapulted the program and set the trajectory. We had Fibber McGee. He was a straight-laced kid. He was kind of the boss. He didn't mess around. We had Bernie Sisk. He was a wealth of knowledge about our competition, and as neurotic as he was funny, he was the instigator. We had Hawk Sherry. He was a great source of laughter and a great runner. John Love, he was the professor. He was definitely one of the most talented all-around guys on the team. Del Hargraves, I used to call him the animal from the Muppet Show. He was just crazy, and he was definitely the weirdest guy of the bunch. Doug Kraft, he loved to laugh with us and at us, and again, he was an overachiever. And myself, I was always wound up. I was ready to win and have a good time, and I used my personality to climb inside of competition's head and create doubt, fear, and confusion. And it was all accented by the presence of Brian Glitz. He was just such a presence in our life then. You know, I was fast again, and the program became well known and feared as all of the elite programs in the state. And then when I was done in Punxsutawney, there were other teams that were as good as me, as good as we were, I'm sorry, if not better. There were individuals that were faster and achieved more. Mike Hampton, if I was to stand here and talk about his accomplishments, it would take me 45 minutes. But you know what the great thing about that is? I still have the records, Mike. And I love the guy. We're just very quick, close buddies. I had to say that. It was Dave Comp, the Bueller brothers, Schuster, Hudak, Curry, Fleck, and we were all fast. But I know, and I know for them, just like me, it was important, but not as important as being part of the storied program, to be one of the cogs in Punxsutawney's running pride, connected to one another and held together by what I know, and I'm sure I speak for the rest of his former athletes, one of the greatest coaches whose career spanned 4 decades, and his dedication to the sport, to winning, and to this community may never be duplicated. But the great thing about it is that Coach John Smith set the bar for all of us, and we are all privileged to be part of that. Each practice, each meet, each day, each race, and many of my hardest moments growing up, Coach Smith was either to pat me on the back or kick me in the butt. More of the latter, probably. But like I said earlier, being a man and the role models that I chose came from outside of my own family, and none more so than Coach John Smith. I consider this honor to be much about me as it is about him and all of the other athletes before me and after me that ran here in Punxsutawney. Thank you very much.